Welcome to a new review. Today we're going to take a look at the War Rock Archetype. And this archetype is the archetype that we're going to get as our TCG exclusive for Blazing Vortex and essentially getting more support for it in Lightning Overdrive. Now that also kind of like bringing me to my point that I actually wanted to wait with this review because of the fact that we are supposed to getting support in Lightning Overdrive, but I decided still to make this video and talking about this support first to kind of like gauge what this cards do right now and what we want to see in the future as a whole, because basically this archetype, as probably a lot of people know, is not the best. And also kind of like talk a little bit at the end some things about the TCG exclusives as a whole, a little bit, not a whole lot of rant about that, but a little bit at the end as well. But before we jump right into the list itself, or should I say list, I'm way too much used for deck profiles. I'm going to say review. We're going to essentially, or should I say, I am going to remind you to, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this, because reminding people to subscribe apparently help them to remember to subscribe. As well as just generally, if I'm seeing the numbers grow, really help me to want to make more videos, and essentially I'm putting my hard work into it to make them look better and always trying to improve on them. But that's pretty much that, and now let's jump right into the review. So to start things off, we're actually going to start things off with the War Rock monsters from the lowest one to the highest one, and we're going to start off with War Rock Fortia. And War Rock Fortia is a level 4 Earth Warrior, which all of them are Earth Warriors, with 1700 and 1700 basically. All of the War Rock monsters have the same attack and defense for the monster itself. So for example, if a monster have 2100 attack, it will have 2100 defense. This one will have 1700 attack, so it will also have 1700 defense. Now, another thing I would say this is that most of the War Rocks themselves also have like prime stats, just like this one in terms of like battle, because they need to be very strong, that's the point, which I do like that nice touch. But unfortunately, their effects are not the best. And we're going to start off, like I said, with Fortia. And Fortia says that if an Earth Warrior monster's battle, or should I say Earth Warrior monster battle, after damage calculation, you get to add one War Rock card from your deck to your hand. And then, after that effect will activate for the rest of the turn, War Rock monsters you currently control will get 200 attack until the end of your opponent's turn. And then it also have a nice effect in the graveyard that says, or should I say like another effect, not a nice effect, another effect is that says if this card is sent from the monster zone to the graveyard by an opponent card effect, you get to special summon one level 5 or higher War Rock from your deck to the field instead of it. So basically, yeah. It's also, I think, allows from hand, but pointedly, you're probably going to do that from deck. Basically, this card, in my opinion, is... It's really hard for me to say this, but I'm actually going to give him 1. Because A, 1700 attack is not really a whole lot, and B, because of the fact that this guy is giving you a small boost, like all of them do that, so that's another point of contention with this archetype. And C, why the heck do you search during the battle phase if I haven't mentioned that already? It's basically like, why do you search during the battle phase? That's one of my biggest problems also with the archetype as well, is that like, instead of just making their search effect and like Foolish Burial and that stuff effect would have been in battle phase with some of these effects, which I think like should have been like something that happens, you could just make them have a Floodgate Light effect and just still being like, when you normal summon this or special summon, you get to search, which could have made this card a lot better, but unfortunately it isn't. And I feel like this card is basically I want to say the worst monster, because it's stats wise, if that's what you're going for, is the worst one, and its floating effect is not really the best, but there is other monsters that you could consider saying that they are worse than this one, but I just don't like this one specifically because of this bad Stratos effect that can only be good in 2010, and we're already in 2010, and we're already in 21. Yeah, I have a problem with that one. Next up, we're actually going to skip on to a monster that's a little bit better, which is the other level 4, which is War Rock Gactos. And Gactos says that if an Earth Warrior monster is normal summon, you get to special summon this one from your hand, has the same floating effect as Fortia, and that's pretty much what he does for the most part. I'm going to give this one 3 stars already. He's pretty simple, he's pretty straightforward, and he's a card that you want to run in decks like maybe Goki, because when you normal summon, you get a free special summon out of your hand, which I'm pretty sure chain blocks. That's how that works specifically, because like, you know, when you normal summon, this happens immediately, so it can chain block your opponent before you activate, like for example, if your effect of Super X. So this one is really great for that one. It's only getting 3 stars just because of the fact that he doesn't really have a better secondary effect, and because of the fact that he only works on Earth Warrior monsters that normal summon itself, which making it a little bit worse. But beside that, excellent card, and basically the best Warrock monster, period, as we have right now. Then we have Warrock Orpis, which Warrock Orpis have the effect that if you control no monsters, or all monsters you control are warrior monsters, you have the ability to special summon, to normal summon, this one from your hand without tributing. And yeah, that's unfortunately it's a shame, because I wish it could also be a special summon, or just say like it could special summon itself with, from your hand instead of like normal summoning, because that could have made the card really good and a nice extender. But its other effect is the same effect as Fortia, but instead of like searching a Warrock monster, he basically sent from your deck to the graveyard an Earth Warrior monster, which is a little bit better, in my opinion. It's a little bit of a better monster in terms of stats, and you can normal summon it without tributing. 2 stars on that one. Foolish Burial effect to set up things for next turn is okay, but like he's really not good because of that. He's better because of the fact that you have better stats. Honestly, that's the only reason why I'm considering it a little bit better than Fortia. And yeah, he's still not that good, unfortunately, and a little bit of a problem for the Warrock as a whole. Then we have the Warrock Mummy, or Waifu, whatever you prefer, and the one that Amazonas Waifu or Mummy that I didn't know that I wanted, and that is Warrock Skyler. And Skyler is actually really okay. Unfortunately, I'm only going to give her 2 stars just because of the fact that she cannot special summon herself or normal summon herself without tributing like the rest of them. She doesn't really have a special summoning effect, which is if you don't have the mountain, which we'll get to it, you don't really have the ability to special summon herself, which is the biggest issue. But she has 2 very nice effects. The first one is that she's the only one that boosted herself by 100 attack for each monster your opponent control, so she can become up to 2800 by herself already. Not amazing, but it's still something, so that's really cool. And then her effect during the battle phase thing, like when Earth Warrior monster battles, doesn't have to activate during the battle, like, you know, after damage calculation. It's activate once an Earth Warrior battles, and you get to special summon an Earth Warrior monster from your graveyard, which is level 5 or less. So basically, if we do have an Earth Warrior, which I cannot think on the top of my head, that basically have a nice effect on summon, or, you know, Warrock will get an effect you know, when they summon an Earth Warrior from the graveyard during the battle phase, he get to pop a card immediately, or he get to do something cool, then this card could be really good, because of the fact that, like, you know, it just summoned during the battle phase, and it's allowing you to pop during the battle phase, which is really powerful. And I think this card does, I think, allow again for a replay. But if you do use that effect, unfortunately, you cannot attack directly for the rest of the turn, which also conflict with the next card. But for the most part, I think Skyler, well, she is the worst in terms of, like, you know, special summoning herself or normal summoning herself. She still have the best effects out of all of them. Like, she has the best effects out of all of them to actually being useful, and she is pretty nice. But like I said, the only reason why she's only 2 stars is because A, she's a waifu, and secondly, you know, that's the reason why she's getting a star. And secondly, because of the fact that she cannot really special summon herself, which is a big contention and problem. Then lastly, for the monsters, we have Warrock Bashileos. And this one, you know, if your Earth Warrior battles, he basically can attack directly and boost all of your Warrocks by 200 attack as a quick effect. Again, just like Skyler, you don't have to resolve a damage calculation first. You can just like activate this immediately. And then his other effect is that this one, if an Earth Warrior monster is getting destroyed by battle, he can special summon himself from the hand or graveyard. 1 star. This one is an interesting battle-related archetype card, like, you know, Battle Trap, I guess, because he can special summon himself out of your hand or graveyard. So they're kind of like giving you protection again. But it's a big beat stick that is stuck in your hand, and without the next card, it would have been like really bad. It's still really bad because you do need to depend on like special summoning it after, like, you could, like I said, I'm going to say right now, you could crash your monsters, but I think it's something that you don't really want to anyway, so this one is pretty questionable, but it's understandable why he's like this, because he's supposed to be a boss of a war or battle phase related archetype, but I think they could have made him a little bit, and I'm going to say by a little bit, I'm really saying that as a far stretch, like, they could have made him a lot better, like, by far, his effects could have been a lot better, but it is what it is. And that's pretty much does it for the monsters. Now we'll move on into the spells for the Warrock. We only got 2 spells, and the first one is Warrock Mountain. And this is the field spell that I talked about for multiple times. This one allowing you on activation to add a Warrock from your deck to your hand, and during the battle phase, if you control only warrior monsters or control no monsters, you get to special summon a Warrock out of your hand, which is really cool. And you also have a nice related battle phase, or should I say battle protection. If a Warrock needs to be destroyed by battle, he can basically send it from the field to the graveyard instead, which is, I guess, is fine. But I don't think it's that amazing still. I'm going to give this one still 5 stars though, because of the fact that it's a searcher. Literally that. It's a searcher, it's a free special summon during the battle phase, which is what the archetype wanted, or want anyway. And I wish, and I'm going to say this right now, I wish the next 7 cards are going to be released are going to be good as this one to give this archetype actually good cards. Because this is 5 stars for the archetype, and this is even not really the best of field spells. But it, in theme, it does thing for the archetype really, really well, and it just helped the consistency quite a bit. So Warrock is definitely a free off on the archetype, period. It's just a great card overall for the entire idea of the archetype. The other spell, however, Ordeal, is not so much. It's basically a reverse supply squad, and a very bad reverse supply squad. You can only have one active at a time, you put 3 counters on it, and every time your Warrock monster destroys an opponent monster by battle, you get to remove 1 counter and draw a card. Now, essentially, as it stacks up, as you can probably understand, you get to draw 3 cards, but first and foremost, it's a card that you can commit to and your opponent can immediately destroy because, you know, you can throw a ghost over or something. And secondly, it's a card that depend on you destroying monsters. Not just battling, you have to destroy. And sometimes you don't have the ability to destroy. So this card is really not that great. 1 star, and I think like if we're getting actually good support from Lightning Overdrive, this is not going to see any play because this is pretty bad. This is a really, really bad card, in my opinion. And unfortunately, it's only good just because we don't really have another option at the moment. But it's not like the worst thing in the world, but like compared to the rest of the cards, which are already bad, this is terrible. So, yeah, unfortunately, a very, very bad way to end the archetype overall. But that's pretty much does it for the Warrock cards as a whole. And I'm going to talk about a second for what I think about them as a whole. For right now, they're a 1-star archetype. They're really, really not that great. They have a lot of issues to even make themselves work, which is a little bit of a problem. They need a lot of support for special summoning, for things that relate to the battle phase that actually good, and not like, you know, depending on like some really niche effects to actually make themselves works. And Konami could salvage this in Lightning Overdrive, but they need to do a very good job and make all of the cards that they will release, at the very least at the power level of Warrock Mountain, to actually make this work. And that's also bringing me to the last thing that I mentioned, which is why I have a problem with TCG exclusive recently, is because of the fact that I feel like TCG exclusives like this, I do like this archetype, don't get me wrong, but I have a problem with this one because this is basically taking the slots from OCG imports we could have gotten that are a lot better and people are actually looking forward to it. And this one is cool, and like I said, I'm probably going to pick them up, and I do recommend you to pick them up before the Lightning Overdrive support if it's going to be good, because, you know, they probably could skyrocket if it's actually going to be good. But the point is, like, I have a problem with this as a whole, because if you release TCG exclusives, that sucks, and I'm not talking about only this archetype as a whole, I'm talking about the rest of Blazing Vortex also imports and other sets before it, prior to that, TCG exclusives that were bad. It just really disencouraged the player base to actually buy the set or like care about the set so much, because these cards are like something that, you know, could have been a better cards from us and actually encouraged us to buy more, because we could have just got in here instead like some of the cards for Ultra guys that were missing. Some cards that were missing for like things, for example, boss monsters for Red Dragon Archfiend. Things like that. It could have been a little bit better. But I'm not saying this archetype is terrible, okay? I've seen worse. But I do think they need a lot more support to make them work. And essentially, I'm not saying stop printing TCG exclusives. I'm just saying stop printing TCG exclusives that are absolute trash. I'm okay with this one, but there are some ones that are like absolute trash that we don't really care about them, such Seafront before, the 3 additional TCG exclusives that we got in, what are called, Phantom Rage, beside the mutants, which were absolutely terrible. One of them I still like because of the art, but the rest of the 2 are just like absolutely terrible, and they're not seeing any play, so this is what I have a problem with. I'm not have a problem with TCG exclusive archetypes, but I do think they could have done them a little bit better. But that's pretty much does it for the review and for my a little bit of a rant about TCG exclusive as a whole. I guess I'm hoping I kind of like made my point that I don't hate TCG exclusives. I just hate TCG bad exclusives that like I'm absolutely terrible. But yeah, as a whole, I like this archetype. I like the idea. It's pretty unique, but they could have done it a little bit better. Let's be honest. And I'm hoping that Enlightening Overdrive will get better support. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the video, so if you enjoyed, don't forget to like and subscribe. Remember, creativity is the key in this game. Have a good day, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.